In just 36 seconds, music legend Chaka Khan went from gracious guest to absolutely furious, launching into a heated takedown of Kelly Clarkson that left the studio audience gasping and ended with the icon storming off set in front of millions of viewers watching live. If you want daily videos exposing Hollywood's darkest scandals and most explosive confrontations, hit that subscribe button right now. Last night's episode of The Kelly Clarkson Show was supposed to be a celebration. Chaka Khan, the 10-time Grammy winner and undisputed queen of funk, was there to discuss her incredible 5-decade career and her latest project. The audience was buzzing with excitement. This was going to be legendary. But nobody could have predicted what actually went down. The show started off smoothly enough. Kelly welcomed Chaka with her trademark enthusiasm, and the crowd erupted in applause as the music icon walked onto the stage wearing a stunning golden outfit that shimmered under the studio lights. They hugged, they smiled, and Chaka settled into the guest chair with the confidence of someone who had done 1,000 interviews before. The band played a snippet of I'm Every Woman, and the audience cheered even louder. Kelly started with some softball questions about Chaka's early days in music, her influences, and what it felt like to be called a legend. Chaka answered graciously, sharing stories about growing up in Chicago, about the first time she performed in front of a real audience, about the struggle to make it in an industry that wasn't always kind to black women. She talked about her time with the band Rufus, about her solo career, about working with incredible musicians over the years. The conversation flowed easily, and for the first 15 minutes, everything seemed perfect. Kelly seemed genuinely interested, nodding along, laughing at the right moments, asking follow-up questions that showed she had done her research. The audience was eating it up. This was exactly what they had come for. Two talented women, both incredibly successful in their own right, having a warm and engaging conversation about music and life. Then Kelly shifted gears. She leaned forward with that curious expression she gets when she thinks she's about to ask something deep and meaningful. The audience quieted down, sensing something different that was coming. You could feel the energy in the room change, like the air before a storm. So, Chaka, Kelly said with a smile, I have to ask you about something that's been talked about a lot lately. There's been some discussion online about how your style of music kind of paved the way for what we hear today. But I was reading this article that said a lot of younger artists don't even know who you are. Like they're doing funk and soul, but they've never listened to your albums. How does that make you feel? The temperature in the studio dropped. You could see it in Chaka's face. Her smile didn't exactly disappear, but it changed. It became tighter, more controlled. She tilted her head slightly, the way you do when you're trying to figure out if someone just insulted you or if you misheard them. Her eyes narrowed just a fraction, and suddenly the warm, friendly conversation took on a completely different tone. Excuse me? Chaka said, her voice steady but with an edge that wasn't there before. You're asking me how it feels that young artists don't know who I am? Kelly, completely oblivious to the warning signs, kept going. Yeah, I think it's unfortunate, because you've done so much for music. But I guess with streaming and everything, people just listen to what's new, and they don't always go back and discover the classics. It's kind of sad, actually. Like there's this whole generation that doesn't understand the roots of the music they're listening to. Chaka's jaw tightened. She sat up straighter in her chair, and her eyes locked onto Kelly with an intensity that made several audience members shift uncomfortably in their seats. You could practically see her deciding whether to let this slide or to address it head on. And then she made her choice. Sad? Chaka repeated, her voice rising just enough to make it clear she wasn't playing along anymore. Let me tell you what's sad, Kelly. What's sad is sitting here on your show and having you suggest that my legacy is somehow incomplete because some kids on TikTok haven't done their homework. I've been making music since before you were born. I've influenced everyone from Whitney Houston to Beyoncé to Mary J. Blige. My work speaks for itself. I don't need validation from people who just discovered music 5 minutes ago." The audience went dead silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Kelly's smile faltered for just a second, but she tried to recover, doing that nervous laugh thing she does when she realizes she might have stepped in it. She waved her hands a little, like she was trying to physically push away the tension that had just descended on the studio. "No, that's not what I meant at all," Kelly said, waving her hands defensively. "I just meant that it would be great if more people knew about your incredible catalog. I'm actually a huge fan. I've sung your songs on American Idol, on The Voice, everywhere. I think you're amazing. I really do. That's why I wanted you on the show." Chaka wasn't buying it. "Oh, you're a huge fan?" she said, her tone dripping with skepticism. "Then why did you just basically call me irrelevant on national television? You think I came here to be patronized by someone who made it big by singing other people's songs on a reality show? You think I need you to tell me whether or not young people know who I am?" That one landed hard. You could hear a few gasps from the audience. Kelly's face flushed red, and her smile completely disappeared now. She sat back in her chair, clearly stunned by how quickly this had gone sideways. Her hands gripped the armrests, and you could see her trying to figure out how to respond. "Chaka, I really didn't mean any disrespect," Kelly said, her voice quieter now, more careful. "I think there's been a misunderstanding here. I was trying to start a conversation about the state of the music industry and how younger generations consume music. It wasn't about you, personally." "No misunderstanding," Chaka shot back. "I understood you perfectly. You invited me on your show so you could ask me how it feels to be forgotten. Well, let me tell you something, honey. I haven't been forgotten. I'm selling out shows. I'm making music. I'm living my life. I have fans all over the world who know exactly who I am and what I've contributed. Maybe the question isn't whether young people know who I am. Maybe the question is why you thought that was an appropriate thing to ask a legend sitting right in front of you." Kelly tried again, her voice getting a bit defensive now. "Okay, but I think you're taking this the wrong way. I was just trying to have a conversation about how the music industry has changed and how streaming has affected the way people discover artists. It wasn't personal. It was supposed to be a thoughtful discussion about the challenges facing legacy artists in the digital age." "It wasn't personal?" Chaka said, her voice getting louder. "You made it personal the second you decided to come at me with that garbage. You want to talk about the music industry changing? Fine. Let's talk about how shows like yours book legendary artists and then treat them like they're relics from a museum. Let's talk about how the industry has always tried to push aside the people who built it, especially black women who paved the way for everybody else. You want to have that conversation? Because I'm ready." The tension in the studio was thick enough to cut with a knife. The camera operators didn't know where to point their lenses. The audience sat frozen, watching this unfold like a car crash they couldn't look away from. Some people had their phones out, recording this moment for posterity. Kelly's producers were probably losing their minds in the control room, trying to figure out whether to cut to commercial or let this play out. Kelly's face was now bright red, and her eyes were starting to water up little. She wasn't used to being challenged like this on her own show, especially not in front of a live audience. Her show was supposed to be fun, lighthearted, positive. This was none of those things. But she wasn't backing down either. Something in her snapped. "That's not fair," Kelly said, her voice shaking slightly. "I've always championed diverse voices in music. I've used my platform to celebrate artists from all backgrounds. I've had legendary performers on this show and treated them with nothing but respect. I don't appreciate you suggesting that I'm somehow part of the problem. That's not who I am." Chaka let out a harsh laugh. "Oh, you don't appreciate it? Well, I don't appreciate being invited onto your show just to be disrespected. You Want to celebrate diverse voices? Then celebrate them without the backhanded comments. You want to honor the legends? Then honor them, without questioning whether they still matter. You want respect? Then show some damn respect. I never said you don't matter, Kelly protested, her voice rising now to match Chaka's intensity. I was literally trying to say the opposite. I was trying to say that it's unfortunate that more people don't know your people work because you're so talented and influential. How is that disrespectful? How is appreciating your talent and wishing more people knew about it an insult? Then you did a terrible job of it, Chaka snapped. Because what I heard was you telling me that young artists have never heard of me. Like that somehow diminishes everything I've accomplished. Like I should be grateful you even know who I am. Like my entire career is meaningless because it's not trending on social media right now. Well, newsflash, sweetheart, I don't need your validation. I don't need anyone's validation. I've earned my place in music history, and nothing you say on this damn show can change that. Kelly stood up abruptly from her chair, her hands clenched at her sides. Her breathing was heavy, and you could see her struggling to maintain her composure. The professional veneer was cracking. You know what? I think we need to take a break. This has gotten way out of hand. This is not productive for anyone. Chaka stood up too, and she was furious now, her voice cutting through the studio like a knife. Oh, now you want to take a break? Now that you've pissed me off and made yourself look bad, you want to cut to commercial? That's rich. That's really freaking rich. You can't handle a real conversation, can you? You can't handle it when someone calls you out on your bull. I'm trying to be professional here, Kelly said, her voice tight with barely controlled anger. I'm trying to salvage this interview so we can move forward. I'm trying to keep this from turning into a complete disaster. Can't you see that I'm trying? Chaka shook her head, her expression a mixture of anger and disappointment. Professional? You call what you did professional? You brought me here under false pretenses, asked me insulting questions, and now you're trying to blame me for calling you out on it. That's not professional. That's weak. That's you trying to save face after you screwed up. I am not weak, Kelly said, her voice shaking with emotion. I made a mistake with how I phrased a question. I apologized. But you're not giving me any grace here. You're attacking me in front of my audience, on my show, and I don't deserve that. I've worked too hard to build this show, to create this space, to have it torn down like this. You don't deserve that? Chaka's voice was incredulous now. Girl, you don't know what you're talking about. You have no idea what it's like to be in this industry for 50 years, to fight for every ounce of respect, to watch younger artists benefit from your work without acknowledgement, and then to sit here and have someone like you question whether you're still relevant. Don't talk to me about what you deserve. Talk to me when you've been through what I've been through. The audience was completely silent now. Some people looked scared. Others looked like they wanted to leave but were too afraid to move. The energy in the room had gone from celebratory to hostile in a matter of minutes. This wasn't entertainment anymore. This was real conflict, raw and uncomfortable, playing out in real time. Kelly's voice dropped to almost a whisper, but the microphone still picked it up. I think you should leave. Chaka's eyebrows shot up. Excuse me? What did you just say to me? I said I think you should leave, Kelly repeated, louder this time. This interview is over. I tried to apologize. I tried to explain myself. But you're determined to make me the villain here, and I'm not going to stand for it on my own show. I won't do it. Chaka stared at her for a long moment, and then she laughed. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was the kind of laugh that makes your blood run cold, because you know the person laughing is absolutely done with you. It was the laugh of someone who had just watched you reveal your true colors. You're kicking me off your show? Chaka said, her voice deadly calm now. The great Kelly Clarkson is kicking Chaka Khan off her little daytime talk show? Oh, this is priceless. This is absolutely priceless. This is exactly what I'm talking about. This is exactly the problem with this industry. I'm not kicking you off, Kelly said quickly, realizing how bad this looked. I'm just saying that maybe we should end this conversation before it gets any worse. Before we both say things we really regret. Too late for that, honey, Chaka said, already reaching down to grab her purse from beside her chair. You already showed your ass on national television. You disrespected a legend, tried to backtrack when you got called out, and now you're trying to play the victim. Well, guess what? I'm not staying here for one more second of this nonsense. I'm done with you. Kelly's face went from red to pale in an instant. Chaka, please don't leave like this. We can work this out. We can talk about this off camera. Please. But Chaka was already unclipping her microphone and tossing it onto the chair. Work it out? There's nothing to work out. You showed me exactly who you are today, Kelly. And I'm done. I'm done with this interview. I'm done with this show. And I'm done with people like you who think they can say whatever they want to. Legends. And then act shocked when we don't just smile and take it. Those days are over. She turned toward the audience, her expression fierce and unapologetic. Y'all came here to see Chaka Khan, and you got to see exactly who Chaka Khan is. I don't take disrespect from anybody, not even when the cameras are rolling. I've earned the right to stand up for myself, and that's exactly what I'm doing. Remember this moment. The audience erupted in applause. Not everyone was clapping, but enough people were that it was clear who they thought was in the right. Kelly stood there, looking absolutely devastated, her hands hanging at her sides, her carefully constructed talk show host persona completely shattered. She looked lost, confused, like she couldn't believe this was actually happening. Chaka didn't wait for a response. She turned on her heel and walked toward the exit, her gold outfit shimmering under the lights one last time. The cameras followed her every step as she strode past the stunned crew members and through the door that led backstage. She didn't look back. She didn't pause. She didn't hesitate. She just left, leaving Kelly Clarkson standing alone on her own stage, facing an audience that had just witnessed one of the most explosive confrontations in daytime television history. Kelly stood there for what felt like an eternity but was probably only 10 seconds. Her mouth opened like she wanted to say something, but no words came out. The audience was still buzzing with shock and excitement. Some people whispering to each other, others just staring at the empty doorway where Chaka Khan had disappeared. The studio felt different now, charged with an energy that was both electric and uncomfortable. The tension hanging in the air was suffocating. Kelly finally found her voice, though it came out weak and uncertain. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for what you just witnessed. That was never supposed to happen like that. That was not how I wanted this interview to go, but the audience wasn't having it. A woman in the third row stood up and shouted, "She was right though. You did disrespect her." A few others nodded in agreement. Kelly's eyes widened. She had never experienced anything like this. Her show was supposed to be the safe space, the happy place where celebrities came to laugh and share heartwarming stories. This was a nightmare. This was her worst fear come to life. Kelly's voice cracked as she tried to regain control. I understand that. Some of you might feel that way, but I promise you, that was a complete misunderstanding. I have nothing but respect for Chaka Khan. I always have. I was trying to make a point about the music industry, not about her specifically. I would never intentionally disrespect someone of her stature. Another voice from the audience called out, "Then why did you kick her off your show?" The question hung in the air like an accusation. Kelly's face flushed again. Her hands were trembling now. "I didn't kick her off," Kelly insisted, her voice rising defensively. "She chose to leave. I was trying to de-escalate the situation. I was trying to protect both of us from saying things we might regret. I was trying to be the bigger person here." But even as she said it, Kelly knew how it sounded. She knew how it looked. On camera, to millions of viewers at home, it absolutely appeared that she had kicked Chaka Khan off her show after insulting her. And no amount of explaining was going to change that perception. The narrative was already being written, and she wasn't the hero of this story. A producer rushed onto the stage and whispered something in Kelly's ear. She nodded, looking relieved to have an excuse to end this disaster. "We're going to take a commercial break," she announced to the audience, "and cameras. When we come back, we'll have our next guest. Thank you all for being here today. Thank you for your patience." The moment the red light on the cameras went off, Kelly's composure crumbled completely. She walked off stage quickly, her head down, ignoring the audience members who were still talking amongst themselves about what they had just witnessed. Behind her, crew members scrambled to figure out how to salvage the rest of the show. Someone was already on the phone, probably with the network, probably trying to explain what the hell had just happened. Meanwhile, backstage, Chaka Khan was surrounded by her team. Her manager was on the phone, probably already dealing with the fallout. Her assistant handed her a bottle of water, which Chaka took without saying a word. Her publicist looked stressed, tapping frantically on her phone, no doubt monitoring social media to see how the confrontation was being received in real time. Someone from the show's production team approached nervously. "Miss Khan, I'm so sorry about what happened out there. Is there anything we can do? Would you be willing to come back out and finish the interview? We could start fresh, reset everything." Chaka looked at him like he had just suggested she jump off a bridge. "Absolutely not," she said firmly. "I'm not going back out there. I'm done. Get me a car. I'm leaving this place right now." The production assistant nodded quickly and scurried away. Chaka's manager finished his phone call and walked over to her. "That's already blowing up online," he said quietly. "Twitter is going crazy. Instagram is flooded with clips. This is everywhere. Every major entertainment outlet is picking it up." Chaka took a sip of water and shrugged. "Good. Let people see it. Let them see what happens when you disrespect a legend. I'm not apologizing for standing up for myself. Not now. Not ever. I meant every word I said out there." Her publicist looked up from her phone, her expression a mix of concern and admiration. "Chaka, I have to say, people are mostly on your side. The comments are overwhelmingly supportive. They're saying Kelly was out of line, that she shouldn't have questioned your relevance, that you had every right to call her out. The hashtags are trending. This is huge." Chaka allowed herself a small smile. "Of course they are. Because I was right. I've been in this business long enough to know when someone is trying to diminish my legacy, even if they're doing it with a smile on their face. Kelly Clarkson learned today that you don't come for Chaka Khan unless you're prepared for the consequences. Simple as that." Back on set, Kelly was in her dressing room, pacing back and forth. Her makeup artist tried to fix her face, which was blotchy from the stress and emotion. Kelly's hands were shaking as she scrolled through her phone, seeing the clips already circulating online. The headlines were brutal. The comments were even worse. People were calling her out, questioning her, criticizing her approach. Her executive producer knocked and entered without waiting for Deuce's permission. "Kelly, we need to talk about how we're handling this. The network is already calling. They want a statement. They want to know if we're issuing an apology. They want to know how we're going to spin this." Kelly stopped pacing and looked at him with tears in her eyes. "An apology? I already tried to apologize out there. She wouldn't accept it. She twisted everything I said. I was trying to compliment her, trying to have a meaningful conversation about the industry. And she made me look like some kind of villain. How is that fair?" The producer sighed and sat down on the couch. "Kelly, I'm going to be honest with you. From where I was standing, and from what I'm seeing, online it really did come across as disrespectful. Asking a legend if it bothers them that young people don't know who they are? That's a loaded question. That's the kind of question that implies their time has passed. You have to see that. Kelly's face crumpled. But that's not what I meant. I was trying to talk about streaming culture and how it affects music discovery. I was trying to be thoughtful and deep. I was trying to have a real conversation about something that matters. I know, the producer said gently, but intent and impact are two different things. And the impact was that you hurt her feelings and challenged her legacy. Whether you meant to or not, that's what happened. And then when she called you out on it, you told her to leave. That's how it's playing everywhere right now. That's the story. Kelly sank into a chair, her head in her hands. This is a disaster. This is the worst thing that's ever happened on my show. What am I supposed to do now? How do I fix this? How do I come back from this? The producer stood up. Right now, you finish the show. You get through the rest of today with your other guests. Then tonight, you and I and the PR team are going to sit down and figure out a response. But Kelly, you need to be prepared for the possibility that this is going to follow you for a while. This was live television. It's not going away. This is going to be talked about for weeks, maybe months. Out in the parking lot, Chaka Khan climbed into the black SUV that had been called for her. As the vehicle pulled away from the studio, she looked out the window at the building where she had just made television history. She didn't feel angry anymore. She felt vindicated. She felt powerful. She had stood up for herself in front of millions of people, and she had no regrets. None whatsoever. Her phone was buzzing constantly now. Text messages from friends and fellow artists flooded in. Calls from journalists wanting statements. Direct messages from fans expressing support. Chaka ignored most of it, but she did take a moment to read through some of the social media posts her publicist was forwarding to her. The overwhelming support warmed her heart. The comments were overwhelmingly on her side. People were praising her for not backing down. They were calling out Kelly for the disrespectful question. They were celebrating the fact that Chaka Khan, at her age and with her legacy, still had the fire to put someone in their place when necessary. They were sharing clips, making memes, writing essays about respect and legacy in the music industry. Back at the studio, Kelly somehow made it through the rest of the show. The confrontation between Kelly Clarkson and Chaka Khan had lasted less than 10 minutes from start to finish. But in those 10 minutes, reputations had been challenged, egos had been bruised, and live television had captured one of the most dramatic moments in talk show history. The Queen of Funk had walked off the set, and there was no taking it back.